So, and let me see if I can bring up Facebook without it making a ton of noise. I think it's still muted, just to make sure that I'm live in the AI Writing for Authors group too. But happy Friday, everyone. And also kind of like right before the holidays, right? Like we are all, Hanukkah, today's last day of Hanukkah. It's December 15th, 2023. And a lot of us also, Christmas is right around the corner and New Year's. So busy season. We've been busy at the FFA. I'm going to jump right into it. I mean, I will say greetings to everybody. But we are going to talk about Finetunes on 3.5 16K. Now, for those of you who know, I got very sick in November. I lost most of November. We're not going to talk about that. That's old news. But I did promise at 20 Books to 50K Vegas that in December we were moving into Finetunes. And a Finetune is, how to explain it? Well, anyway, it's a new data set that helps the LLM write a little bit better on a specific area or a industry or a task or something like that. So we did our first data set yesterday in the Future Fiction Academy, and the results blew our minds. So let me go ahead and check on YouTube and see. I see Facebook is going great. Let me see YouTube. Hey, Michelle. Hey, Stacy. Hi, everyone. Apparently, I can now put people in timeout on YouTube, so that's great. So I'll say hello to everyone. All right. So the link in your YouTube description should have a link to our 2 weeks left in 2023 Write With Me, although this is going to be the Finetune. But I will also always share that link really fast in the various chats here. So if you are already in the chat and new people come in, please feel free to share the Notion page. This is where I put all my notes when I do a live. We're going to talk about fine-tuning, and we're also going to talk about, hopefully we'll be able to get into Rexy, and I'll show you some new features on sequencing. So since Friday's video last week, I've heard nothing but really great things, and people are really excited about the ability to now finally sequence prompts. I think has finally clicked for people. So Finetunes. Okay. Before we get started, I did share a link in Facebook, and I just realized I am not sharing my screen yet, so you guys can't even see what I'm looking at. Let me share my screen. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and I think that we are zoomed in enough for you guys to see it. But if not, please let me know. Oops, I did not mean to do that. I want to do this. Okay, so we're going to start off with the results, and then we'll talk about the methodology. Okay. So the results here, real fast. I am trying to, apologies really fast. I'm trying to get some links and stuff set up. I know I should have been better prepared for this, but life happens. At any rate, I'm getting a message on Discord. So, Finetunes. So this is the comparison. I'm going to put this particular link on the other Notion page as well. So let's put this link onto the information here. So this was the comparison. And we're going to talk about these comparisons really fast. So that way you all can, yeah, I think that's right. Okay. So that you all can see the results. So the goal here was to make GPT 3.5 write a better outline. And we have 3 samples here. And I'm not going to reveal which one is yet, which one is the which model. So that way you all can take a look at the link that I just put onto the Notion page, and you can read the outlines. And we're going to read over them ourselves here real fast. And I want you to also decide which outline you would like best, A, B, or C. And I want you to try to figure out or try to guess which models wrote which one. I will tell you that one of these is the Finetune. So the only thing that the LLM had was a prompt that was the system prompt is for Outline Mageddon. So this is the actual prompt that was in there. I'm not going to make the data set available quite yet. As my father pointed out last night, you've only done it once. You might have gotten lucky. But we actually ran it through a bunch of different outlines and everything like that. So we do know that it works. The Finetune does. So we had a system prompt, though, that created this persona called Outline Mageddon. And I'm going to talk about this in just a second. I'll talk about it right now. Why did we call it something really gibberish like Outline Mageddon? My theory, so a lot of the research I did on fine-tuning, first of all, people do a data set, which is just, okay, let's talk book corpus for a second. The book corpus data set is nothing but a bunch of snippets of sentences. I mean 5 to 10 words. Okay. It's absolute kind of rubbish. It's not how I would ever dissect a novel to teach someone how to write a novel. Not even a little bit. There's no context. It's literally just a bunch of strings. Strings, by the way, in computer talk is just fancy words for it's words, not numbers. So a string of text is usually what you hear. And a string of text can be, for example, Outline Mageddon is designed to excel. That would be a string. And that's exactly how that data set was created. It's literally snippets of sentences. It wasn't even always the full sentence all the time. That's how crazy that training data is for writing fiction. And I bet you if we were to look at all 740,000 instances, we would see high frequencies of things like Little Did She Know, Willow Creek, Andromeda, certain words that we keep seeing the AI that are kind of unique phrases or recognizable phrases over and over again. It's because they were a higher percentage in the training data. So last week I shared a link to the OpenAI LLM optimization video on YouTube. It's 45 minutes. It's a really great watch. I highly recommend everyone watch it, especially if you want to get into Finetunes. And one of the things that they teach is that you cannot use a Finetune in order to teach the LLM something new. And I think what they meant to say was you can't teach the LLM something it already has a lot of training data on because you can't compete with the millions and the billions of parameters they've already trained. Now that part makes sense. The first one did not make any sense to me because the LLMs know who Mr. Darcy is. And the only way the LLMs learned anything was from data sets. It was from training. So basically, there's weights assigned to it. There's letters or there's numbers. There was a fantastic post shared today in the AI for Writing for Authors Facebook group. I'll get the link on the Notion page, or maybe Stacy can grab it real fast and put it on there, by Cameron Sutter from Plotter. He and I got to talk earlier this week in a conference with Stacy Anderson, and we talked all about AI and they've got some really cool features coming to Plotter in the new year that will help authors, with those brainstorming capabilities. But he did a really great article on his Medium, I think it's it's Substack. I apologize. His Substack that says, how do the LLMs work? And he makes the analogy about it being like a GPS roadmap. And I agree with that. Like it's like GPS coordinates for where these tokens live. And I usually give the idea that it's a galaxy of stars because it can move in every direction, which he points out as well. It's not 3 dimensions, it's infinite dimensions. So Elizabeth, how does this relate to Outline Mageddon? Okay. So OpenAI, even own research says you cannot teach the LLM something new with a Finetune. I beg to differ. You can teach it something new if it is something completely wackadoo new that it has never heard before. And let me go ahead and show you what that looks like. So I'm going to open up my OpenAI playground really fast. So I'm going to log in. I'm going to do this on two tabs here. This will be the first thing. Because, I could tell you, but I want you guys to be able to see it. So the first one, apparently I did it twice. So, that's bad. Okay, I'm going to go to the playground. And don't worry about assistance. We'll go to chat. And I'm going to use GPT-5 Turbo. And I'm going to ask it, what is the Outline Mageddon? Oh, it's 1D because I misspelled it. AI. Okay. Temperature, we'll start with 1. We'll increase the length so it has plenty of room to do that. And we'll just ask it. And it's going to say, I don't know anything. I don't know what Outline Mageddon is. Let's see what the Finetune says, shall we? So I'm going to go to Playground. And we're going to talk about the Finetune. We're going to talk about the process of fine-tuning and what's involved in that. So, oops, wrong one. I thought I copied it. I want to copy it word for word so it's apples to apples, except instead of this 3.5 turbo, I'm going to use, actually, you know what? Let's be fair. Let's be fair. We'll use the 16K, okay? Because the 16K or the Turbo 1106, that's what I fine-tuned. So we'll take this out and we'll ask it that. Oh, that's interesting. Huh. It says right here, the API playground request will not be used to train our models. I accidentally just found it that basically it did. None of the other GPT 16Ks know what the Outline Mageddon is, but Turbo knew what it was. unless they're layering always your Finetune on top of your regular turbo. Because if I ask 16K, it says it doesn't know anything. If I ask turbo 1106, which is exactly what I fine-tuned, okay? Can somebody else test this real fast with your 1106 and see if it knows what the Outline-Mageddon is? Because when I ask my Finetune, it will also give you the same, it'll also give you a good answer. If I ask the Finetune that we did and I submit it, it gives the same kind of answer about outlining and novel outlining. But if I was to ask just the regular turbo 16K, which I did not fine tune, it doesn't know what it is. Is everyone seeing this? Am I crazy? I got to check the chat. I feel like I'm crazy right now. No, it still doesn't know. So I'm flummoxed. Sorry, I'm going to make it bigger so you guys can see it. The point is that somehow some of the models now know about the Outline-Mageddon, and specifically the models that correlate to what we fine-tuned. And just so you know that it's not a 3.5 issue, watch what happens if I ask like GPT-4. It doesn't know what it is. So it's like, look for credible. It's telling me how. It's like, I don't know, but let me try to help you find it out. Thanks. Thanks, GPT-4. That's the GPT-4 Turbo, by the way. If I ask regular GPT-4 what Outline-Mageddon is, it doesn't know either. But my 1106 knows. So the experiment I need someone to do is I need you to choose GPT 3.5 Turbo 1106, and I need you to ask it, what is Outline-Mageddon AI? And Mageddon doesn't have two Ds, it's just one. And now my turbo is saying it doesn't know, which is interesting. Interesting. Anyway, my Finetune can consistently, no matter how many times you ask it, it will come out with something that has to do with, it is something to do with outline and novel outlines and everything like that. It hallucinates that it thinks that it is able to do nonfiction and things like that. But I can't even get the other models to hallucinate about it because they don't have any training on it. And the training that my Finetune did get was, let me show you what a Finetune looks like. So here's the Finetune that we did yesterday. And what they did is the data set is actually 16,000 tokens. So if you're calculating how much this cost, because that's always what we want to know, it is 137 thousands, because it's 137,000 times 0.129, because it was 12 cents. No, I apologize. It's 137 times 0.008. $1.09 is what it cost me, or $1.10 roughly. The reason why it's 37,000 tokens, even though the data set's only 16,000 tokens, is because of these epochs or epochs. I've heard it pronounced both ways, but I think epoch. I don't know. But it means that it ran the data set 10 times. So the data set has 10 samples in it. That's all. So we'll come back to this in just a second, but let's go back to the results. So my point is that we are seeing some indications that you could train it on something gibberish, for example, with enough repetition that the model is actually able to give you back feedback on that information. So it's not great. It didn't know anything about the actual outlines that we did. It's kind of, so their 1106s know as well, but none of your 16Ks know, right? So I don't think, I hate to say it, but I don't think it's true that they're not training all, like that all the data is not training all the APIs. How else would one model that did get a fine tune on it be able to hallucinate about it? See if you can get GPT-4 to hallucinate about it over and over again. See if you can get a 3.5K, because the 1106 GPT 3.5 Turbo is what we fine tuned. And your regular 16K knew nothing. I'm stunned. I'm really, really stunned. And I kind of feel bad. I don't know how, I have emotions and I don't quite know what to do with them right now. I was like, this is not what I planned on happening. Let's go back to how wonderful a Finetune is. I'll try to process the fact that I don't think that with what I just watched happen and what we've been playing with, I don't trust this statement anymore, where it says, oh, from Chat Enterprise or our API, you own your inputs. I wonder if maybe fine-tunes are not included in that. You can adapt it. Your fine-tune model is yours alone to use and is not served or shared with other customers or used to train other models. I don't know about that. I'm skeptical panda right now. I am very skeptical panda. Okay. Back to the results though, because that's really what everybody's here for. Our methodology, we had a persona, outline Mageddon AI, and I wanted it specific because my theory was that if we made the training a specific phrase that wouldn't have other training on it, when we called to it in the prompt and said, hey, be outline Mageddon and I need you to write this outline, it would go, huh? Outline Mageddon? I don't know. Oh, wait, yes, I do know something about that. Oh, and then that training, it's basically helping it get to that part of the galaxy of stars where we have our training data set at, wherever that is in the vector field. That was my theory anyway. And if that's completely wrong, let me know in the chat. I know people will, or people will let me know in the comments, but we're all trying to figure this out as we go along. The other thing I want to talk about with data sets is our data sets, there's only 10 samples and there were 16,000 tokens. So if you're doing that math, you would know that our examples were between 1,200 and 1,800 tokens. Yes, we made a training data set that was not these little snippets. And just to help for people's education here, I want to go to Hugging Face real fast. If you go to Hugging Face, there is a whole bunch of free data sets, okay? We are not the first ones to make a data set, not at all. There's lots of data sets out there. But you can take a look at them, and if I come down to text generation, for example, and let's say I want to do the keyword creative, just to see. And if I want to look into data sets, oh, I want to filter here. I'm sorry, creative. Let's go with creative writing. So here's a Dolly creative writing uploaded August 9th. And I can click into this and I can look at that and I immediately see that the format for this is alpaca format. If I go to the data set viewer, I want you to see what this kind of looks like. This is a very short piece of, instruction. Can I please get a dog? Response. Hi, after being a tenant for nearly 7 years, I've decided I'd like to get a dog. So the category is creative writing. And then the example that it's giving here that it wants to simulate, the way a data set works is you are going to give the AI examples of how you'd prompt it and what kind of output you want. For OpenAI, we get 3 roles. We get system, we get user, and we get assistant. And assistant is the response back. It's basically your playground. So if you ever come to your playground here, you'll see how you have a system prompt, a user prompt, and an assistant prompt spacing here for the chat information. If you're using the legacy, which is completion, it's literally just two boxes, 2 roles that you have. But coming back to this data set here, and this is a great data set for someone, but I wouldn't call steps to prepare an omelet creative writing. Would you all? I would call that nonfiction writing. I would call that technical writing. I wouldn't classify it as creative writing. And I'm not trying to tease this particular data set. They're all like this. This is actually one of the better ones, I have to say, in terms of how much information is in there. Steps to prepare an omelet, context, answer. Here's one of the ways to do it. And so hypothetically, when you would feed this into the LLM, it would not just know how to create an omelet, but if you were to say steps to prepare any kind of food item, it would kind of start to go, oh, wait, I know how to do this. I need to come up with something in this kind of format where it's, the ingredients and the steps to do it. Same thing down here. But a lot of these you'll see are very nonfiction, but they're put in creative writing. And this is a problem for us, fiction writers. The last little thing I'm going to show you is book corpus, because I think we need to actually look at this as a data set. There is some open ones. It's not necessarily the same as the book corpus 3, but I don't think anyone really took a look at it. When you look at this in the data set viewer, this is it. This is the data set. This is how they took those books and took out pieces of the sentences. But just one look at a minion sent him practically catatonic. His platinum blonde hair and blue eyes were completely hers. So now you can start to see how these like cliches and stuff got in there. We have such a fun day ahead of us. It's Noah's baptism, and then there's a party at Uncle Aiden and Aunt Emma's house. Now, I did go through the data set a little bit in the way that you could, if you read through this, because it's kind of non sequitur, I was able to start picking up some different pieces here that I could kind of construct an idea of which characters were there and maybe the premise and stuff. And I was able to find a book that I think is in the training data set that way. But in terms of how the actual data was done, each individual piece of data is literally a fraction of a sentence. It wasn't a case of like the entire book was put in. It's literally just like random pieces of it, 5 to 10 words. I'm not going to say necessarily that I don't think that those authors don't deserve compensation. I just don't know legally, and I'm not a lawyer, definitely not a lawyer. It's hard pressed for any of us to say, I own the copyright to those 5 words, those 5 or 7 words put together. It gets more specific when you have like an actual character's name in there. But if I was to grab something, a piece like right here, he was controlling and possessive and he wanted all of her time. That particular fragment. I don't know that anybody really owns the copyright to those couple of words. I don't think that's a unique section of words that's never been written somewhere else or anything like that. And that's where this gets very tricky. Now, when you have something like she had to take several semesters off after Mason was born, we have Mason in there, which is a unique character name. I don't know how many times people have written she had to take several semesters off after Mason was born. This is a very tricky wicket. But this is not how we're fine-tuning the FFA. We're not taking anyone's books and doing it this way. Because quite frankly, I think this is not how I would train anyone how to write a book. Would you? I'm going to check the chat real fast to see if there's any questions. I know I'm talking about a lot of things here that no one has really kind of harped on or touched on in this industry, really, or videos and stuff. So Outline Mageddon. So people are asking how it knows it. I think Jorge's asking, is it possible the AI just knows about the fine-tune? Can it be Outline Mageddon? I don't think it can be Outline Mageddon. I think what happened was possibly it is now in the training data set for the 1160, since we fine-tuned 1160. So this is something that we're going to have to keep looking at and keeping an eye on and do some more tests on. I definitely want to test a whole bunch of different data sets and seeing if that kind of bleeds into these main sets before I ever do something that's like trying to train it on like my story world. My hunch is that for the story worlds and things like that, we're probably going to be better served with fine tunes on open source models possibly. But that's a problem if you want the writing to be foundational models. So this is all very tricky. Okay, let me keep going. Harper says you asked GPT-4 and it didn't know what it was, but it did give me 2 paragraphs of what it thought it might. I've been trying to find. Yeah, mine did too. It has outline and AI in the name. What else could it be? An AI that writes outlines. You would think that, Becca, but believe it or not, if you say Outline Mageddon AI and these other models, it's like, I don't know what that is. And it wasn't able to hallucinate at all yesterday. Dear OpenAI. Thanks, Jorge. Okay, so let's talk about some results, shall we? Hopefully by now some of you have had a chance to look over these outlines, and we're going to take a look at them. So sample A here, we have Act 1, and we'll really just kind of compare the Act 1s to start off with. In the bustling streets of Renaissance Italy, we meet Maria, a spirited and talented young girl with an insatiable passion for art. So in this first sentence, I have a very clear time period setting. I have Maria, and we know a little bit about her. And by the way, this was the painter's apprentice. In Renaissance Italy, young Maria apprentices with Leonardo da Vinci. As she masters the art of painting, she becomes entangled in a dangerous world of court intrigue and a forbidden love that threatens her mentor's greatest work. So that's the story that all of these models are supposed to outline. And they did a pretty decent job. I have to say, all of them came up with kind of, this middle one was very vague, I will say that. It just says growing attraction towards a member of the court in Act 4. Or Maria's introduction to the complex world of court politics, the rivalry between influential families vying for power and influence. This middle one is definitely more simplistic than the other two. The first one here has we meet Maria, and then comparing it to sample C over here, the story opens in the bustling city of Florence, Italy. So we have a little bit more specificity there. We know what city we're in. During the Renaissance, Maria, a young woman with a passion for art, is introduced. So we have 2 sentences, whereas the other one we have 1. Now, what's interesting is the sample C, despite societal norms, she secures an apprenticeship with the renowned Leonardo da Vinci. I would say that first paragraph is kind of clinical, whereas with sample A, we actually got into kind of the perspective of the character a little bit more. Her world changes when she is chosen to apprentice under the renowned polymath Leonardo da Vinci. Their first meeting is a moment of awe and inspiration for Maria as she witnesses Leonardo's genius at work in his studio. So we have an LLM here that is writing a paragraph or an outline. My opinion is that it's slightly more humanesque in the sense that that's the style that I would write it in, where I'm focused on the character. The other one is a little bit more clinical, a little bit more like, these are the facts, ma'am, very Joe Friday, we're in the bustling city of Florence. We see Maria, she's introduced, and despite societal norms, she secures an apprenticeship with the renowned Leonardo da Vinci. You keep going down. Leonardo, we'll look at C first this time. Leonardo recognizes Maria's talent and begins to teach her not just about painting, but also about science, philosophy, and life. Their bond deepens as Maria proves herself to be a dedicated and gifted student. I would look at this, and as if I'm planning this story, I would immediately want to add a little bit more conflict there. I'd need to add some action. It kind of reads more of like what it would be for an outline for a movie. Like that would be kind of like a montage of scenes or something like that. Or I'd want to punch it up to make it something funny, like how's she going to have problems the first time if she's an apprentice there? If she's not really somebody who would be an apprentice, what does that look like? I would bring a senior writing partner to that. Here we just have setting Renaissance, a vibrant and artistic era. Introduce Maria, a young and talented artist seeking apprenticeship. I'm looking at outline B. Maria's determination to learn from the renowned Leonardo da Vinci. We always have that determined character, right? And that's all we get for the Act 1 introduction for that one. It kind of bleeds into Act 2 here, where it has first encounter, skepticism, teaching methods, and it doesn't get to court intrigue until a little bit later. If we look at outline 1, or outline A, under Leonardo's tutelage, Maria immerses herself in the world of painting. She learns the techniques of, I'm going to totally butcher this, I apologize in advance, chiaroscuro? I should be able to ask it to pronounce that. But anyway, that thing, chiaroscuro. And that would be something that, if I got that from the LLM, I'm not an art history student or anything like that. I wish I took more of those classes, and I guess I could. But I would immediately be looking that up to find out what the heck is that. And it's the treatment of light and shade in drawing and painting. And then I would be like, okay, well, what I would be looking at what the history of that is. Oh, and then I see that does the Mona Lisa use it? And it's like, yes. So we know that was something ascribed to Leonardo da Vinci. So that's where I would be kind of checking the LLM, because it's not my wheelhouse of expertise at all. So perspective and composition, each lesson deepening her love for the art form. Her dedication and natural talent do not go unnoticed, earning her praise from Leonardo and jealousy from some of her fellow apprentices. Now, me as a senior writing partner, I like that paragraph better because it tells me, remember how I said for this one, I want some conflict here. I want something to happen here where it's not just a montage of them doing stuff. I want to see some kind of problems for the character right away. Storytelling is take your characters, stick them in a tree, throw rocks at them, and get them down. And I think that's in Stephen King's On Writing, by the way. I'm not taking credit for that. So let me check the chat here. Okay, nothing in the chat here, nothing in the chat in Facebook. So we'll just keep going. So now the moment you've been waiting for. You guys can read all these outlines. For me personally, I liked outline A. Okay. I also liked outline A that it was already naturally putting it into our Tupperware containers. And hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. That was part of our training. We were looking for the criteria we had for if the training worked off of 10 samples was if it would write in paragraphs, which both sample C and sample A did, and if it would write it in plain text formatting so that it would not have weird bolding and stuff like that we have to clean up. And both sample C and sample A did that. There is one difference though. Check this out. There is where sample A and sample B and sample C stop. Sample A keeps going. So which one is which? And I'll tell you now the choices are, one's the Finetune on 3.5, one is 3.5 16K, and the other one is GPT-4. Do you think you have the answer? Okay, sample B is very clearly ChatGPT 3.5 16K. It is simplistic. It's what you're going to get every time you prompt GPT 3.5. And it's not bad, because literally all of us would get this outline as a member of the FFA, and we would immediately say, great, now add more detail. We would use our layering techniques where we're prompting it over and over and over again and using that chain of thought prompting. Sample C. If you thought sample C is the Finetune, you are not correct. It is sample A, is the 3.5 16K Finetune. So not only do I think it's the best outline and it's the longest outline, it's also cheaper than sample C is. Sample C is GPT-4. So GPT-4 actually wrote something that's pretty close on par lengthwise with 3.5, but it did write in paragraph form and it didn't have that funky formatting. So I'd have to take all these D's out and stuff like that because we do sequencing and things. I don't like to have A, B, C, D in my outlines. So at any rate, that is the result of our Finetune. Hopefully you all will look at this comparison link and make your own conclusions. If you are like, no, and before you're like, well, I don't actually like sample A better. I like sample C better. I like GPT-4 better, because there are a little bit of differences here. They both had like this one said Giuliano, a charming nobleman. We do have that same kind of thing here, but it's Lorenzo de Medici. So this one's definitely more specific, but there are some specifics over here. There are different specifics in those two outlines. But the other thing that I think what makes outline A win all day long, all it does is win. This outline costs 1/10 of that outline, because GPT 3.5 16K is always 1/10 of the cost of GPT-4 right now. So if you're choosing, what to do, is it the question is, in business, is it worth the squeeze? Is it worth the time to build a data set so that 3.5 16K can write better? I'm going to say yes. And I'll tell you how much time we used. Yesterday, we did it in Club Strat. So if you join the Feature Fiction Academy, you already have access to our Diner Trainer tool. The link is in the Club Strat session from yesterday, and you have access to the data set. So you can actually take that data set and fine tune your own 3.5 16K, which will cost you about $1.09. The other thing too is that I kind of lost what I was talking about there for a second. I forgot. Okay, yeah, the hours, how long it took. We worked on this project 2 hours yesterday to do the methodologies. And the methodology was pretty simple, because we did what's called kind of dog fooding, I guess is what they call it, or synthetic data. We were starting to change those outlines. We did 10 outlines, 10 different genres. We had the persona, which I showed you guys. So we have the persona. I can also show you the prompt that went in for the outline prompt. Read the following premise for a novel, and then B, outline Armageddon, and write the novel online. Write the novel outline. So that was also part of it. And then we gave it, these were the outlines that came out actually in 3.5. And then we gave it the premises, and the premises are over here. We didn't write the premises either. We had the AI go ahead and write the premises. I was trying to use artificial intelligence to write as many of the components as possible, because that's usually our workflow. Like, we start there. And I also wanted to see what keywords it uses. So we actually asked it to make the persona as well for Outline Mageddon. We did read over it and validate it and make sure it was exactly what we wanted, and we made small tweaks to it. But the vast majority of the data is actually artificial intelligence. It's all public domain information. So it's all stuff that the AI came up with. The uniqueness of this here, I would say, is we are doing a longer form sample than what I've seen most other data sets out there do. We are doing samples that are 1,200 to 1,600 or 1,800 tokens. We also have done the define something weird Outline Mageddon, so that it has a unique kind of like qualifier. So when you're calling back to it, it'll kind of understand, oh, I need to go to that part of the galaxy. It's important that that's in your system prompt. Our tests, when we were asking GPT 3.5 if it knew anything about the outlines that we trained it on, it didn't know those. It wouldn't even, we got the same kind of responses that we got from Outline Mageddon on GPT-4 and stuff. Like, I don't know what that is. I can guess, or it would hallucinate something, but it had nothing remotely close, not even keywords in common. So we have to do a lot more research on this. We have a lot more data sets to do, a lot more experiments to do in the FFA with this entire thing. But this is really promising as a outbreak of opportunity for creatives working with LLMs. A couple of extra hours where you figure out how to make a data set, and we help you figure out how to make a data set. We made our first one all together as a group. We're going to be doing more of these data sets. There's a lot more data sets to make. This is not easy work in the sense of you have to be able to think how your book information needs to be broken down into a data set. And if somebody else has research on this, please share with us. If you know someone's been working on this problem, or you know that they have some information on GitHub or wherever, we're all standing on the shoulders of giants. The stuff and the work that I'm sharing with you, I didn't come up with all of this. I built it off of the research I watched with OpenAI talking about fine tuning. And they gave the example of like someone doing their Slack messages, and that was a complete disaster. And also other videos I watched on fine tuning. So how do you do a fine tune? Really fast, because this is, you can find this information anywhere. You're going to click create. And when you do that, it's going to ask you for what model you want to train. You may only have certain models available to you, like GPT 3.5 Turbo. If you have more money spent on your account, or you've been granted access to GPT-4, right now GPT-4 is in beta, I think, right now for fine tuning, available to enterprise clients. You also can fine tune a fine tune. So here's my fine tune from yesterday. I could actually retrain it on the same data set. I could add another data set to it. Whenever you're going to do one, you are allowed to upload up to 10 files, and you need to have at least 10 samples in each file. Now, these files are a format that is called JSON-L formatting. And if you want to see, if you click learn more, for example, about fine tuning, they have an entire fine tuning guide here. And this is where the problem is that you see here GPT-4 is experimental. Eligible users will be presented an option to request access in the fine tuning user interface. They have a prompt engineering guide, and prompt engineering is where you should start. Your prompts should be pretty good at getting the results that you want, or close to it. Our prompting, we tested it. It was giving us decent outlines. And you also, when you're going to do a fine tune, you also need to always establish a baseline. We did do that in our methodology. If I come over here to the fantasy, for example, our baseline was actually these GPT 3.5 outlines. So let me see if I can find the historical fiction. Here's the historical fiction that was in the data set. Well, actually not this one. The beefed up GPT-4 one was in the data set. This was the baseline outline. And it did, you'll see how this is very similar to introduction, introduce Maria. It's very similar to sample B, because this is a 3.5 16K with just the system prompt, and then that prompt of like, please write this outline following the novel premise below, and then the novel premise. So this is a result that was no fine tune. This is a result that is just strictly what can the LLM do right now. Then we took these 10 and we ran them through GPT-4 and asked it to make it more specific. So our training data was made up of a bunch of these GPT-4s, which are actually not here. They're in the auto write. Apologies here. They're in the auto write. So the historical one, that's the mystery one. We did do 10 different. Nope, that's the truth, the redacted truth. Is it this one? The Queen Cipher. Okay. So you had the GPT-4 one or GPT 3.5 16K one just had those like little bullet points. Introduce Thomasina Penrose. Here we have this paragraph formatting. Okay. And then the fine tune of 16K basically gives us back that fine tune. It gives us back the paragraphation, or paragraph, whatever that word is. It made it into paragraphs, people. So that was what we were going for. Our criteria was it needs to, if the fine tune works, it needs to write back in a format that has paragraphs instead of these single little bullets, and it needs to write back in a format that doesn't do this introduction B, A, B, C. It needs to do it in like Act 1 and Scene 1. Those were the fine tunes. I will say some mistakes in our data set, or some things that I would want to change. We were not we were not as careful with our data set as we could have been. Number one, we did not human validate all of those outlines. We were just trying to prove proof of concept here. We just wanted to see, like, how much could the needle move? I did not expect the needle to move as much as it did. So things that we did not do was that. Other things too that I would say is an issue or potential issue is that some of them, for example, here, they just have the paragraph. Other ones have, I think it's this one has it. This one has like scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, scene 4. So even our outlines, our data set wasn't consistent, exact outlines formatting wise each time. And that didn't seem to matter. It still kind of got the gist of it. It definitely didn't do this because this methodology, this kind of style wasn't in the data set at all for the Finetune. It was only variations of what it actually output. All right, so I'll leave that for any questions that people have. If your brain hurts, know that all of us, our brains were hurting yesterday. Like it was interesting. It's definitely a lot of fun to do this as a group of people, in the sense that this is not a project I would want to work on solo, though you could, especially if you're trying to do your own story information and everything like that. So hopefully I've covered all the basics. Sample A was the Finetune. And the cost again on fine tuning was, I think if I go to usage, it'll show me exactly like what I did in fine tuning, right? Yeah, fine tuning models, it cost me $1.13. So you can see that I'm using it a lot more now, but I'm sure this is going to get bigger. It's hard when I use all the different models for me to run up a bill on any one very big. We haven't experimented yet with fine tuning open source models. That's going to be coming for us. We haven't done other data sets or anything like that yet. We haven't explored like how do we get it to know characters or anything like that. So I feel like this is a big day. This is a cool day. We can fine tune 3.5 16K, and I can't wait to make a data set to work on making it try to write like me. I have some ideas on that, but until I actually do some testing, I won't have anything more to report on. Hopefully this will help people who are interested in fine tuning. You can always join the FFA and we're all working together, or you can work on your own stuff here. I know there's a lot of people who have been fine tuning. I heard from some people that they're taking their outline, or they're taking their books and they're cutting them up into 500 token sections and just putting that in there, and they're not really getting great results. And I think it's because you have to pair it with a prompt and a system prompt if you're using 3.5 anyway, or an OpenAI model rather. You need to give it information. It's like playing Jeopardy, and that actually came from our developer Joseph Yu. Joseph Yu is the one who created Rexy for us. Fantastic man. I'm so appreciative for his patience with me, because I'm not a computer scientist, by the way. I have a degree in political science leadership studies, and my big thing now is like, no one's coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. No one is really worried about the creatives who are going to lose their jobs or anything like that, about AI. And as AI comes, we have to work together and make sure we're still relevant and that we're still important in the process. And we're only going to be able to do that is if we're starting to work with these tools and stuff today and say, hey, this is where my role is. My role is being able to look at these outlines and going, that's not good enough. This is good. Why is it good? Because I know story, because I have 15 years of writing experience, or 25 years of writing experience, or 45 years of writing experience, whatever your situation is. People who are creatives can literally look at this link and go, bam, sample A is better. And they can explain why. When I give this link to people who are more talented at coding and engineering and, making software and stuff, they think it's better, but they can't really say why it's better. And they also aren't sure if sample C is actually better versus they don't see as many differences between sample A and sample B as I do, or as other authors do. And that's okay, because you can't expect everyone to be an expert in every field that's out there. I don't necessarily, society doesn't need the people who are best at making computers do amazing things to also be experts in writing books and telling stories and entertaining people and making people smile when they're down. You don't have to be an expert in all things. So if we all work together in this space, and maybe we learn a little bit more of the technical stuff and the technical people learn a little bit more of our storytelling stuff, we can all live in that Venn diagram space together. And we have a good future moving forward of writing great things, amazing things with human assisted. No, not human assisted AI. AI assisted humans, because I think that's what the future is. Okay. Let me check the chat, see if I'm missing any questions or anything like that. Nothing in Facebook, which is all okay. And let me go over to YouTube. All right, I see you, Ashling. Yep, she needs to go back. Harper's saying no Tupperware containers, and the outline looked like a typical GPT 3.5 outline when you just asked it for our outline Mageddon. Yeah, I figured. So let's see how you would prompt the Finetune, how you would use the Finetune real fast. So in order for me to use the Finetune, I need a quick. I'm going to ask this AI, and I'm going to say, write me a similar premise, but for a let's do a really weird. Let's do a lit RPG, but for a lit RPG story, just for giggles. Okay, so there we go. So same thing here. A forbidden romance that jeopardizes the game itself. All right, so this is a very simple premise. Let's go ahead and play in Playground with the Finetune, shall we? So what I can do with my Playground is I actually have a history, so I can actually just go back to my history. Let me see if I can find it here. I don't know that it has all the information. Yeah, there's where it came up with, so I'm going to restore that one. All right, so I'm going to take out that information there, and I'm going to put in the new premise right here. So this, in order to do this wouldn't work for you, by the way, because you don't have my Finetune. But for members of the FFA, if you train on the data set, you would have your own Finetune that's going to behave similarly. You do have to put the system prompt in. So although we could see what happens if we just ask it to be outline Mageddon. So I put this information in there, and I have the premise for the novel. Now, in order to be fair, we're gonna copy this. Actually, we'll do it this way. We'll leave it as is, and then we'll just delete the message and we'll change the settings. So when we did the training and everything, I wanted to keep the settings consistent. So we had 0.7 temperature, 0.7 top P. Our presence penalty was at 1. But I'm going to go ahead and submit this. This is with the Finetune, so we're going to go ahead and get this outline. And you'll see here that we have paragraphs. It's writing a decently long outline. It's not just doing those simplistic things that Turbo typically does, GPT 3.5 Turbo. So this will be the example that we get. And I can tell you right now, the word count on that is 904 words, my friends. So let's go ahead and put that in here. And we'll put this as a new kind of comparison for when we ran the live. So this is, I'm going to need columns. And I'm going to need 3 columns. And I'll do the same thing I did before, except this is sample Finetune, 3.5 16K. And we'll stick in the outline there. And I will put the information here just in case people want to play with this prompting on their own, they can. And for anyone freaking out like, Elizabeth, don't share your prompting. The AI wrote this prompting, guys. I just prompted the thing because we were just testing the very basics. Trust, when I do my data sets, I won't necessarily be sharing my data sets with everybody else. Like, because it'll be about Jath and it'll be like my brain and what I want. But for everyone to get started, I want other people in the space to be able to make Finetunes and stuff. You never know. Somebody might be doing it better than what we're doing in the FFA, and the entire industry can benefit from that. So that's why this is important to understand. We all stand on the shoulders of giants who came before us, and we all iterate and build so that way we have a better future for all of us. Okay, so this is the system prompt. And then this is the user prompt. And then this is the various assistants. So everyone can understand. All right, let's do the next experiment, shall we? Let's get an outline. We're going to delete that outline. Let's go ahead and change our settings. We're not going to change our prompt because it's important when you're doing experiments. You're not changing that much. Let's do just a regular Turbo 16K. Actually, let's do an 1106. Because I'm curious, because I tuned in 1106, we'll also do a plain 16K too, so we can compare those. Because I'm curious how much it knows. Aha, nope, 1106 doesn't know very well. It didn't make it into the Finetune. I think we just got into an hallucination. So this is just 1106. I'm not going to keep it. I'm just going to do a regular 16K. So we'll run that one. We'll probably get a similar reaction. And again, it's just very, 3.5 16K turbo with no fine tunes on what the outline looks like. Thinks an outline for a novel looks like this with V and A, B, C, D. I haven't outlined like this since like middle school, honestly. Back with and I thought I was hot too. I thought I was slick too, because I took the time to learn all the shortcuts in Microsoft Word to do all of these. Because if you messed up your outlines back then, it could be hell trying to get the formats to fix it. So this is sample 3.5 16K. Oh, and I'll put the settings. Thank you for that question. That's a good question. So settings is temperature 0.7. The top P is 0.7. Max tokens as high as you can. And presence penalty is 1. So that everyone can have the same settings. All right, and then the last little test, I will close off the usage. Y'all don't need to keep seeing that. Let's go to GPT-4, shall we? So we'll do 4. Actually, let's do 2 more. No, I only have 3, so we'll just do GPT-4. So I'll take this out. You always have to subtract the other message. The reason why you can't just keep doing message after message after message, changing the model, I mean, you can. The problem is everything in that middle section goes into the prompt and gets sent. So if I was to just be building these outlines on top of each other and without taking them out, I would basically be doing a chain of thought process where the LLM is also looking at the previous outlines and understanding, oh, she didn't like that. Let me try something else. So it's important that you take the message out. So we're going to do GPT-4. And here we have more of the paragraph. So we'll let that run for just a second. Well, some of us work together, Ingrid. More of us are working together. I agree. The people who are pretty staunch, that are like, it's me first and the gimmies, or the, I'm just going to take from other people and not talk about where I got it from or anything like that. It's not the way to get ahead. That's not going to last for too long. We'll still be here in a few years. So here is Act 3, climax and resolution. My goodness. I think this one's going to be close to 900 words as well. We'll see. He is no longer just the apprentice. Oh, maybe not. Nope, that's short. That's probably about 600 words. Let's see. Word counter plus 424. I was way off. My word count foo is off. I don't play with Playground that much anymore. I'm usually in Rexy. Nope, cancel. Okay. I need to come over to here. Oh yeah, we can discard this though. Yeah, discard. You weren't bad. You were fine. I just didn't need it in that document. I feel bad because Notion AI is always like, was it good? Was it okay? And I'm like, yeah, it was fine. I just don't want it there. I was just using you. Sample 4 or sample GPT-4. And here is the outline. So again, we got kind of the same results. We're inputting the same information. Our settings are the same. Our system prompt is the same. Our novel premise is the same. And our prompt is the same. And we get kind of the same results we got over again in the comparison chart. We can see very quickly that the Finetune is writing a much longer outline. Why? Because we fed it longer outlines. Like that's what we did. So there's opportunity here to make 16K consistently write longer. How many of us have been frustrated of like, it only writes me 400 words. It only writes me 700 words. We might be able to push it so that it consistently writes out 1,500 words, which is its max at 2,000 tokens. 2048, I think, is what the max output on a 16K is. Oh, one word of warning, and this is not proprietary information again. You can read the documentation on all this. It's all there in the documentation. It reads like stereo instructions, but it's all there. They even give you an example of what the code should look like. So to copy so that you can see what this looks like, I'm going to warn you right now, it's not pretty. Let me go with just like a plain text box, plain text window. Let's see what I can do this. There's got to be like a, oh, I know. I can just, oh, I don't want to go to pseudo-write. Nope. Hold on. It's not this lab. Let me go to Google Colab. Is that what it is? Colab Research? Yeah. I'm just going to throw it into this just so that into a new notebook. It's not, we're not doing this in the notebook, but I'm recently learning collab or however you say it. I'm just going to paste it in so you can see what the formatting looks like. So the formatting is JSON-L, and you do have to format it like this, and it's a pain in the patootie. It is very difficult if you want to have multiple lines because you have to escape out all of the characters. So you can't, this is my first fail was I can't actually format this. Like, let's say this is a longer one, a longer sentence or longer prompt, system prompt. I can't press enter here and put a new line and like put words here. That will break the formatting. You have to do some funky things. I'm not doing it. That's why we have the Dino Trainer. The Dino Trainer that Joseph built us, you just throw your prompt in, you click a button, and it puts it in the format for you. And then you can build your file. And again, that tool is already available to the FFA. The link to it is in your Club Strat notes from yesterday. But for those of you who are not FFA members, I want you to understand that they do show you what you can do here. And this is kind of cool. That is very helpful that it'll, I don't know how to do that. Go out. How did I do that? I don't know what I did. Somehow I expanded that. I'm still learning collab, but you can expand it out and you can see it. The formatting is very, very persnickety. That's the technical term for it. It's persnickety formatting. I don't know that they could have picked a more persnickety format than long form JSON scripting. But the long form JSON scripting, which is not the same as JSON scripting, it's different. It's the same, but it allows you to have extra lines and everything like that. It is allowing us to have data sets that have longer samples. We just all have to become data scientists and make the data sets. All righty. Well, is anyone's brain still alive, or did we need to pause there? Because I know this is all new stuff. Let me go check the chat. Yeah, I'm laughing, Ingrid, definitely. Is anyone still alive out there? Nope, we're all dead. And we'll leave the playground here. All right, so you guys tell me what you want me to do. I can wrap up this live. Although there is actually a feature in Rexy that I do want to show. Yeah, okay, so people are brain dead. All right, so the one little thing I'll show, and we'll do more of this later. In Rexy now, you have the ability to skip the BBB. Let me explain what that is. So you guys can see my Rexy, right? And I'm not muted or anything. Let's go with the YouTube live stuff from last week, and I'll just load that up. Okay. So when you are in WordBanger now, I don't know if this is, I don't know where I left that project at. Hold on a minute. Let me see what my Notion pages are at. I need to go to the project. I need to go back to my home screen. If I go back to my home screen, it'll always give me the link to the superstructure page. That's the cheat, so I can get back into it. So we're going to the Rexy clause. And let me see what's in my pre-writing Notion 121. Story information. So this is what I need. No rag and all of that for the prompts. And then this is, we're doing scene 2 drafts. Okay, so yeah, that's fine. And let me make sure that the blackjack that I want. So come back to the blackjacks. We'll do the cleanup one. Let me go to the bang view and let me see which prompt it wants. It wants the N4 prompt. Okay. So now I just have to go back to my auto write and my Notion. I know I'm going fast, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I need my prompt 2.0. Nope, that was that. Make the writing stronger. Please reword and basically write it longer. Okay. So let's do this no rag smaller models, actually. We're going to leave that as is. So we're going to rewrite the scene. Yeah, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to show. Okay. So, by the way, Finetunes. Very soon you're going to be able to bring your own Finetunes into Rexy. So it is worth it if you are going to experiment this weekend in getting these Finetunes into GPT 3.5 16K. We will very soon have an ability for, and by soon I mean like before Christmas. Or like sometime next week, you'll be able to bring in your 3.5. You'll be able to bring in your Finetunes into Rexy and actually write with them in Rexy. And that's important because let me go ahead and do my Notion slots. I think I copied it. Yeah, I did. So let me bring my Notion slots in. This will be the last thing I show. So we have this information here. And then we're also going to do, I've lost my train of thought. We also are going to go ahead and load that blackjack. So let's go ahead and load the, not make the outlines more robust. Data set. Okay, clear the cache. I'm in the wrong project. Hold on. We want Rexy Clause. Load the project. I was accidentally in this stuff for yesterday. And no, that's not going to be the name of it. It's going to be skipping the BBB. And we'll do the time travel, load the blackjack. Okay. One of the problems with blackjacks and word banger in general was that every time you do a sequence, whatever's in the middle box gets appended into the prompt. Now, sometimes that's good. That allows you basically to do chain of thought. It allows you to do some cool things. But sometimes you don't want that because maybe you're working with a small model. So I'm going to actually work with GPT-4. GPT-4 is a smaller context window model. It only has 8,000 tokens that it can do. If I was to do scene after scene after scene after scene with GPT-4, does everyone agree that that would be too long very quickly? I would be able to get to do one scene before it would be like, nope, you're outside the context window. So we fixed that. And the way we fixed that is with the skip the BBB. So if I come over to WordBanger, and I'm going to go ahead and load my base slots. So everybody's in there. Everything's in there. My N1, my N2, my N3 is in there. And then it's going to read the story information below, and it's going to read this, and then it's going to write that. I can actually do GPT-4. And I'm going to bring the temperature down. And we'll go to 4096 because that's its limit. Now, just to test that I'm not going to hit the ceiling with just one, I'm just going to bang one. So let's just bang one and see if it goes through. Now, it's literally writing scene one for me, revised. I'm going to stop it. Because it did it, I know it's not going to hit the limit. It's not going to hit the ceiling. So let me show you what this looks like. I'm going to just pop out of Notion slots and come back into WordBanger just so that it clears off the stuff that I didn't want. So that will actually load everything in that was working. And then I want to come down to the bottom here and make sure it's not in the Big Bang box, and it's not. And I can also kind of see, okay, we're at 2,000 words in the Big Bang box, and then the scene one draft I know is only a couple hundred. So I'm actually going to click skip the Big Bang. Oh no, I'm not going to click skip the Big Bang box. Oh, I see. This is a problem. Okay, yeah, you're going to have to change the prompting, but give me a second here. This is my bad. Because I put all that prompting in the Big Bang box and I wanted it to read it, all I've got to do is put that information into here. I'm going to actually take out the start of the scenes. Go to the end. We're just going to do 3. Now, if I was to try to bang this as a sequence of 3 without telling it to skip the Big Bang box. So skip the Big Bang box does not mean it doesn't write to the Big Bang box. It means it's not going to read the Big Bang box in the prompt. That's an important distinction. They're always going to write to the Big Bang box, but it's going to skip the Big Bang box for the purposes of the prompting, so that the prompting doesn't keep getting incrementally bigger. So this is a good methodology for expensive models that you don't want to give it. You don't want to have it grow from like, I'm prompting it 3,000 tokens, and now it's 6,000 tokens and 9,000 tokens and 12,000 tokens. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger each time I do it. If you don't want that, you want to skip the Big Bang box. We are very soon going to have the ability that you can clear the box, and all of this can be controlled in your blackjack. Also, the blackjacks are going to go unlimited, so you're going to have as many sequences as you want, as many Notion pages as you want. And also, the other innovation that will be coming in the next couple of weeks will be you can choose a model preset for each bang, so you can actually get into this. So this is actually going to be a very robust. It's going to be a stronger tool. Would you recommend removing the scene chapter synopsis as well? Would they potentially lengthen the output? They could, but for this right now, I just wanted to basically show what it's going to do. So I'm going to do 3 bangs, And each one of these are going to skip the Big Bang box. So I'm leaving it as it is so that it has, like, it's going to read the scene 1 draft, and then it's going to be told to please rewrite the scene, keeping it stronger. So I wanted to know the whole story, the scene, what's going to happen in the story, so it can foreshadow, it can know what's going to happen in the future and not kind of write itself into a corner. And now I can do 3 repeats, and I can start banging it 1, and I can let GPT-4 bang. And what this does is it basically allows these prompts to actually be individual silos. And there's one other innovation that I'll show you. It's not an innovation. It's actually something that's always been there. I just forgot about it. So we'll let this run for a little while, and it's writing the scene 1 draft revision. 1's not easier for the current chapter. It depends. So the question is, would you recommend removing the scene chapter synopsis as well? Would that potentially lengthen the output? If it's too long for the context model you're trying to run, yeah, take them out. Only put in what you need. In my particular case right here, I want it to know the whole story so that it knows what's going to happen in the future. So it can take that into consideration as it's doing the rewrite. So I want it to write the scene longer. So again, skip the Big Bang box only means for prompting. Probably better wordage is like don't include Big Bang box in prompt. Maybe we'll change the box to that because that makes more sense. Because it's not going to skip the Big Bang box because that makes it seem like it's not going to write to the Big Bang box. It always will do that. But it won't read the Big Bang box in the prompt. So don't include Big Bang box in prompt. All right, so we'll let that run. And while that's running, I'll tell you the other thing that I'll show you guys, maybe if you guys want to see it. Your elements. Some of you, I'm guilty. I'm so guilty. This last completion right here, that's always a token. That's a universal token that's always there. So let me explain what you can do with that. Well, when we were working this week in labs and things like that, we were innovating and we were like, these are all the things we need Rexy to do. And one of the things that we wish Rexy could do, because we've been using end slots, is like I could write a scene and then immediately tell it to rewrite that scene and make it longer. Or, okay, that scene that you just wrote, now rewrite it to add this characterization information or to beef up the characters or something. You can do that with last completion. You can actually write out sequences now, and instead of calling the end slot, if your first bang is going to create your draft chapter 1, for example, or scene 1, if your second bang says, now that last completion, make it longer and add more dialogue between the characters. The last completion variable is always whatever was the last output from the LLM that you were working with. So last completion, very powerful tool. I haven't been using it. So hopefully that makes sense for everybody. All right, so we got 1,000 words instead of, I think it was like 700 originally. And see, now you can see it's doing the scene 2. And so it's behaving exactly the way you would expect it to. The difference is, and we'll see this once it finishes 3, we'll look at the actual prompt. You'll see that it didn't parse into their scene 1, scene 2, scene 3 rewrite revisions in there. All righty. Well, I do have to kind of end this pretty soon because I do have an important meeting at lunchtime that, trust me, you don't want me to miss it. It's the future of Rexy development. So I definitely need to be at that one. Are there any questions about fine tuning or working with Rexy, or how, if you don't have access to Rexy because you're not a member of the FFA, how you would do these things that we're doing? Like we're literally just sequencing mega prompts. You can literally copy and paste the mega prompts. You can store them in Notion with these different prompts. So we're able to go faster, but literally you can just write this prompt right here. If I grab this information, so I've got that one, and I grab this. So I have my 2 pieces. If I'm in ChatGPT, for example, I'm using that one. You can also use Claude, whatever you want. And I paste those in. So I'm just going to put read the story information below. And I'm going to push and enter. Actually, I know that this is going to kick it back. And then I didn't mean to do that. Control Z. Okay. I accidentally clicked the wrong thing in my jump cut. And I click go. It's probably going to tell me that prompt is too long. So it has this, and then it has read scene 1 draft. So it has scene 1 draft. It says, please rewrite the scene. And now it's writing it. So everything you do in Rexy, you can do by hand. Okay? You don't need a tool like Rexy or Pseudowrite or Jasper or Novel Crafter or Novel AI or anything like that. Like you can literally prompt the LLMs. Well, Novel AI has their own LLMs in there. So that one you do need to use their tool if you want to access theirs. They do have an API, but you can prompt in OpenRouter, you can prompt in Playground for OpenAI, you can prompt in ChatGPT. I am using the paid one, so I do have access to GPT-4 128K in here. What's nice about this is if you wanted to save a little bit of money, you're already paying the $20 for ChatGPT. You could maybe use this for some of the sequences if you wanted to. And you see that this is absolutely writing longer than what we had originally. And we'll take a look at that. Rexy is powerful because it's allowing us to do, like yesterday, we were able to make data sets really quickly in less than 2 hours. Rochelle Ayala has been doing research on Rexy and stuff like that. She's been building documentation guides for all of the members of how quickly she's able to iterate. And now that we can skip the big bang box and stuff like that, that's going to make us even faster to make these rough draft words, or good draft words, I should say, that are ready for human editing and everything. So you'll see that it only put the draft 1 revision in here, and it wrote 2,400 words between scene 1, scene 2, and scene 3 was the last bit of it. And if I was to look at the prompt, the last prompt, so if I click inspect, the request had read the story information, and it had the story information. Then it had the synopsis, and then it had the scene 1 prompt. And the next thing it should have is scene 3 draft. So old way, when you don't skip the big bang box, this section right here where the dinkus is, everything that it has written so far would have been put into there. And you can see how that balloons out your prompts very quickly. Now you can just skip the big bang box and not have it in your prompt. And it makes these prompts a lot smaller. If I was to look at this particular prompt, for example, inside of a tokenizer, and we're going to eventually have the tokens on there so that you can see them. The hard part is different LLMs use different tokenizers. So OpenAI tokenizer, let's see here. Boop. I'll put it in there. 4,000 tokens. So 4,000 tokens over and over and over again. You can do that in GPT-4 all day. You can do that in some of the not safe for work models like Mythomax or Mythomist and all those other ones. So any of those not safe for work models, if you need to be able to write, longer violent scenes, fight scenes, war scenes, sex scenes, whatever you need to do, you can now do it with the big bang box. You can still sequence those things. You're not hamstrung because you don't have a big enough context window. You can actually skip it and just have them run as silos. Okay, let's take a look at what ChatGPT did. And I will also take a look at, I think here, I'll get out of the, no, I'll go with this one. So I'm going to go to my Rexy superstructure page on the YouTube Rexy clause, which you guys all have access to. Auto write. And let's take a look at what the skip the big bang box did. So this is the scene 1 draft revision. And using the API GPT-4, we got 1,058 words. If I come over here to ChatGPT, it didn't quit. It didn't finish, although it's kind of, I think it's kind of looping a little bit. We'll see the scene 1 draft, the first iteration before it had to continue. Oh God, we got little did we know. Little did I know, my view of Christmas and life was about to change forever. Gosh, how to fine tune. This one wrote 1,290. So, but again, it could just be a re-roll, a dice roll. If I rolled it again, I might get something that's 1,400 words. You just never know. All right. So hopefully everyone learned some new things with Rexy. You learned some new things about fine-tuning. Fine-tuning, I definitely think, is the future, especially for GPT 3.5. I mean, the costs, just so everyone can see, we'll end on that because I think that that's probably the most important thing I want to hammer home here. You have a tendency to go, I only use GPT-4 because it's the best. It's the newest. It's the best. It must be the best because it's the newest. Not necessarily. We are supposed to be able to get access to fine-tune GPT-4 in the new year. It's one of the reasons why I want to make sure that we figured it out now. So here is the pricing for GPT-4 Turbo. Now, your GPT-4 is still expensive, guys. It's not cheaper. They only made Turbo cheaper. That's important to know. So your actual GPT-4 is way more expensive than GPT 3. Turbo. When you fine-tune the models, so down here, I'm going to write it down because I'll mess it up. We'll do the input and the outputs as equal, even though they're not really equal, but we'll take an average of it. We'll just compare apples to apples. We'll just look at the output. So a Finetune GPT 3.5 Turbo, okay, 16K, is 0.006 for 1,000 tokens right here. 0.006. That's the output. And if I was, which is cheaper than DaVinci. That's kind of interesting. So coming up to right here, it's 3 times the cost of regular GPT-5 Turbo 1106. So this is why it's always important to build your baseline. Make sure that the model just doesn't get you close enough that you don't really need to do a fine tune. If you can already get a model with the output that you want, you don't necessarily need a fine tune. It is a tenth of the cost of GPT-4. A fine tune on Turbo 3.5 is a tenth of the cost of GPT-4. It is 20th of the cost for GPT-32K, which most of us don't have access to, so that really doesn't matter. But if I take 0.12 and I divide it by 0.006, I get 20. So it's 1/20th. And then finally, this new Turbo, which a lot of us are using, 0.03 divided by 0.006, it is 1/5 the cost of Turbo. So you're going to pay 5x GPT-4 Turbo versus GPT 16K with a fine tune. So the balance that you have to do is the fine tune cost worth it? Because if you're fine tuning for a few bucks, depending on, and this is where it's going to start to kind of turn into us like, is it worth it to train it on a series? Or should we be using RAG? Should we be just formatting and having, a document there that's like 6,000 words or 7,000 words that it can read, or do a step like it extracts the information, so we have a writing plan for each scene and it's already extracted the information and I've already validated that information, and then I just have it write the scenes. In that case, it might make sense to have a GPT 3.5 16K fine tune that you've invested a little money in and invested a little bit of data sets in so that it writes the way you want it to write. And then you're going to control the information into the prompting. So versus going, no, I'm just going to use GPT-4 and use the higher model because it writes it writes better, but then I've got to edit it all. So it's really going to be a personal choice, and it's going to come down to what you're trying to do with the LLM. All right. I want to thank everyone for being here. I know, Gerald, you say you have no idea how to fine tune. We literally just taught that in this video. So if you start at the very beginning, I walked through what your data set has to look like, where you can find that information on OpenAI, and how you upload those files and go ahead and run a fine tune, and how much it costs. So, hey, Ikello, good to see you. And NC Sponge, you did that last night. Just use ChatGPT for the first draft. Yeah, perfect. So thank you all for supporting the Future Fiction Academy. For the people who are members of the Future Fiction Academy, I just want to say a heartfelt thank you. Your patronage, your involvement, your membership with the FFA is what allows me and other people on the team and stuff like that to do the research of what do these advances and these new things mean for creatives. I'm going to go ahead and stop my share. The other thing I want to say again is no one's coming to save us. No one is really, really working on, well, we have to worry about the creatives who might not have a job if we make this like GPT-15 that just like reads your mind and writes stuff. So we want to make sure that we're still in that equation and we're still part of the process, because we are always going to be better storytellers than the AI. There's an anecdote that I used to tell, and it's not safe for work, so I'm not going to tell that one. But the point is that the AI was writing a sex scene, and it was fine. It was writing a sex scene, and then we asked it to like write the sex scene and have it be more romantic, but they don't actually have sex. And it wrote that the female partner asked if he was hungry, and like got up and got into the shower, and then she proceeded to take care of herself in the shower. And we were all like, wait, what? Like the AI can write something about a hand being hurt, being slammed in a door, but it doesn't actually have a hand. So it's never had a hand slammed in a door. It doesn't really know about all the different ways that can throb or hurt or be painful, or if it could cut, be a laceration, or what kinds of conversations might happen, or how you might be mad at your sister who slammed the door in the first place because she was excited to go get a Slurpee in 7-Eleven, and you're all sunburned and you're exhausted. That's how my finger got slammed in the door when I was a kid. We were at the beach and we always slept for Slurpees, and my finger got caught. But my point is that the AI is never going to be human, and storytelling is a human experience. But humans who are AI assisted, that's a whole nother level. I'm telling better stories and exploring my stories deeper than I ever did before. So at any rate, I hope you'll like and subscribe to this channel. If you're not a member of the FFA, if you are a member of the FFA, I'm sure you already are liked and subscribed. We will keep doing these videos as we have our research that we can share, and we will keep building better tooling and education and stuff for our Future Fiction Academy members. So if you're someone who can take what I shared and you can go do your own thing, more power to you, and I'm really excited for you. And that's what our industry needs. Our industry needs as many people who know how to harness this technology as possible. And if you need some extra help, or you want some tooling that makes it faster for you, take a look at the Future Fiction Academy. The link is down in the description. We'd love to see you in lab. All right, everyone. Have a great weekend. Bye.